I have a lot of the weird ones. These like brush pens. You know what? No. Change my answer. That's not weird.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What is Comics with me, myself, Jamie Jones, and Matt Sardo, as we talk about comic books and everything. This is the official Indie Comics Creator Con podcast. This week, we have a really great episode with Cosmic Lion Productions president, CEO, publisher, all-around good guy, Eli Schwab.
Oh, man. Eli is a breath of Grateful Dead air. Like, it's just a lot of Grateful Dead air.
He's the best. He's a guy who has been in my life in comics for half a decade at the minimum, and he has been a constant supporter, constant kind of touchstone as to what we want Indie Comics Creator Con to be, what kind of the indie community can be and do moving forward.
Yeah, he's definitely an engine, a positive engine, and a driver. And like, I don't think IC3 would be around if we didn't have some of his support early on, and everything. And now we have a great partnership, and he has a whole island at the show and bringing down tons of creators. And he's definitely the life of the party during Drink and Draw and the after party.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, he facilitates a lot of fun.
And speaking of Drink and Draw and after parties, we have this show, Indie Comics Creator Con. It's on March 15th at Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven. If you're coming from New York, you can just take the train in. It's a 2-hour drive in from Boston. We have an official hotel. If you go to the website, indiecomicscreatorcon.com, you can get a room. Join us for the Drink and Draw on Friday, the show on Saturday, and then the insane after party Saturday night. Like,
we have over 170 creators at the show at this point, which is mind-boggling and mind-blowing. So that's going to be a super crazy time.
Yeah. What else do we got? We got the scavenger hunt, where you can explore the whole entire venue, and then you can have a chance to win some original artwork.
Yeah.
That will be made during Drink and Draw. We're going to have portfolio reviews. There's a gift bag for the first 100 people, and a lot of creators are donating stuff to that gift bag. One of our sponsors, Dark Horse, they're putting some books and stuff as well in there. So you want to be one of the first 100 people at the show.
That's very true. Tickets are only $8, and there is free parking. That's
lots of free parking. So much free parking.
So it's going to be a good time. Jim Rugg, Tom Scioli, Dean Haspiel are coming into town. It's going to be a great time. IndieComicsCreatorCon.com for all the details. Should we talk about these sponsors before we get into this podcast?
Yeah, we have some amazing sponsors. Comics Wellspring has been with us since the beginning. This whole podcast is about Cosmic Lion Productions and Cosmic Lion Island that will be at the show. Dark Horse Comics, I put the swag in our bags. Monkeys Fighting Robots, you know about that. And then New Haven's Alternate Universe is the local shop, and they want to be part of the show, and we want them to be part of the show because they have an amazing shop and they support indie creators as well.
That's great. And now that we are a part of the Comic Art Fans family, you should check out all of their YouTube channel, Comic Art Live.
And then go to the Comic Art Fans. They have the app. You can download the app, create a gallery, interact with other art-loving fans and artists and creators on the app. Like, it's really cool. It's where I post all my post-convention stuff now. Like, definitely use it.
Cool. Should we get into this podcast with Eli Schwab?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, yes. We're going to talk to Eli now.
Cool. Great, because it's a good one.
Where's the old country?
Great question, Matt. Thank you for asking that. It was that side of the family came from France, Alsace, Lorraine, which was right on the border of Germany and Russia during the disgusting conflicts of World War II. And during that time, it went from France to Germany. And my ancestors were like, we don't know. Are we French? Are we German? Are we French? Are we German? And soon our French side won out. We fled the country with nothing but our wares and a want to join the schmata business, as it's called in New York City. And so we settled first in New York and Brooklyn. And my grandfather truly lived the Will Eisner contract with God life in the tenement, the Jewish tenements. And then they moved to Western Maryland to get their business started.
Well, I lived in St. Pete. Matt lives in St. Pete. You lived in St. Pete. Our paths never crossed.
It's insane. No.
Which is wild.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember this was like very early on. We did a podcast together or something, and we both found out that we lived in St. Pete for a time, and you had just moved out of it. Yes. And I would just like text you pictures of the pier being built.
That's right. Yes, because that was a huge thing.
It was a huge thing. You kept asking me like, how's the pier? And I was like, it was over COVID. I was like, nobody's out, but the pier's still being built. Like, it was wild.
Yeah, we actually end up making it back because my girlfriend's family is from Jacksonville. And we were like, oh, we've got to make it back down to St. Pete and, you know, check out the Lens or whatever it's called now. Yeah. And it was nice.
Nice.
So where does like comic books fit into like this journey? When do you start making comic books?
Great question. I mean, I started making comic books in like middle school. I started making these like just comics on newspaper, on notebook paper, and you know, just one copy, and I would read them to my friends in like this. It wasn't homeroom. There was just like they would hold all the kids in like the lunchroom before school started or whatever. You would like get there from your bus and you'd have to go wait in the lunchroom, and so we'd all sit there and laugh and talk about stuff. And I had my comics, and so I would do like story time. I'd like read these comics to my buddies, and you know, they were goofy. Like I had this character Jester Man. I write all about it, and you can learn more in Cosmic Lion Primer, out soon in local shops. But Jester Man was my like first big character. And I just basically bought like a hat at a ski swap. And there I am in the top right there. And that was me at my 5th grade Halloween parade as my own original character. And then that's me like last year in the same shirt and hat, which is still at my folks' house. But so then I made comics of Jester Man, and I would just like read them. Like, again, you can kind of see some of the old stuff here. So it started like that in middle school and stuff, and I would read them with my friends. I made one called Grammar Guys about these guys who could turn into like these giant punctuations, and they're would bounce around and hit stuff and teach you lessons about punctuation. And that was a fun one. And then I would always so it was those kind of things. And then I would draw like my teachers, or like, like Miss Brown, the Spanish teacher, hated me. She made fun of me all the time. She caught me one time because I was like trying to learn how to draw hands. So I was like sitting there like I'm Marty McFly about to disappear or something. I'm like looking at my hand, and then she's like, "Yeah, you guys are listening? Eli's over here staring at his hands," and everyone laughed at me and never lived that down. But I'm over here like trying to hone my craft. Anyway, and so then I drew her as like a raging beast spitting fire. I would draw like our friends doing dumb stuff, or we'd all be like, once we got a little older, we'd be in my like friend's basement and we'd all be smoking weed, and I'd draw like us doing stupid stuff. And so there was kind of always that element for me of drawing comics. And then I then decided on this thing, Monkey Line, when I was living in Burlington, Vermont. I was just sitting there and I was like, I'm working in bands. I love Star Trek. Like, what do I want? I want to write a comic about like the things I love. Like what I would want to read. Like they always tell you like, write what you know or whatever. So I was like, what I know right now is like every episode of Star Trek and band management and stuff. So I tried to make like a Star Trek band. And that's when I decided on Monkey Line, intergalactic Afro-funk band on tour through the galaxy. But then I didn't do that comic for another like 5 or 6 years after I went to college with Tanisha, and we moved to Tampa. Tanisha is my girlfriend. And we moved to Tampa, and then I had like, I was doing Apple, and I would do like 4x10s for Apple 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. So that was like pretty draining. But then I had 3 days off where she'd be like out working or on a show or something like that. And she was like, she would encourage me. She's like, why don't you do a comic? Why don't you do your comic? Why don't you do your comic? And so I did. and we had this cool loft. We were on West Waters, right off Dale Mabry there in Tampa.
So when you finished Monkey Lion, I mean, I saw copies of Monkey Lion at Emerald City Comics in Clearwater. They had a little indie section, and that's where I think I first saw your stuff. And like, I think we had met each other, we had known each other. I texted a picture to you, and I was like, "Hey, this is you, right?" And you were like, "Yeah, that's crazy." So you were like, when I was starting to get into comics, getting into a comic shop was never even a thought to me. Like, it was like, yeah, I'm going to make a comic and then put it out. But you had the foresight and wherewithal to at least hustle enough to get your stuff into a place.
It kind of was always part of it, because once I started seeing those indie racks at places, and I kind of always want to be friends with the guys at the comic shop. They always seemed cool. For a lot of time in my life, they were the only people I could talk comics with. So I was always trying to be like, "You want to grab a beer? You want to do something? Let's go." You know, like, and so I got to be friends with the dude at Emerald City, whose name is shit. I can't remember now. Sorry about that, guy at Emerald City. He's a really cool dude. Maybe I'll remember it. But so we started hanging out, and then it was really just placed on there. And also, my childhood bookstore, they supported a lot of local creators too. And so once I started publishing my thing, Lee, the owner there, he messaged me and was like, "Oh, do you want to debut your comic here?" And so I sent him a thing. He made like a little stand-up thing that he put on the counter, and so that was really cool. It was like, this is where I first bought comics ever in my life. And then now here's my comic on sale there in Maryland. So that was a really cool thing.
The self-publishing thing, because when I was starting, it was always like, get a job doing a thing, working at Marvel, DC, Image, wherever it could get published. And then that's how you got in. The self-publishing thing is, I mean, that's where my career went, right? Like, I figured that part out, that was viable and easy, a thing that you could do. When does that hit you? When does that become a viable thing? What's your trajectory? Were you just like, well, I'm just going to belligerently make my comic and put it out, and it's going to be in shops?
I think too, like I was just being real with myself. Like, I was never that good. I was never good enough to like be a Marvel and DC guy, but I felt like I was good enough to be like an underground comic, because I started trying to read underground comics. And if I were to say, describe what to me an underground comic is, more than just like you make an underground. I'm just kidding. I watched you guys' Matty Keene episode, and I was like, damn, I want to see that. No, I just think it was like, it is self-published, and it is word of mouth, and it's just kind of like rough and gritty and not perfect. And when I saw this very comic here, Jim Muffood's 40-ounce comics, I bought it at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash back in the Dizay. And like, when I saw that comic, it changed the way I thought. It changed the way, like, comics, they don't have to be, they don't have to look like this. And, I'll probably get there, but, it can just be like some paper stapled together. It can be whatever you make it. It can be, however you want it to be. So once I saw that, and once I knew, like, the first comics that I made and sold were just photocopied at Kinko's across the street from Nectar's in Burlington. They were one-sided. I didn't even know how to do two-sided, and it was just like out of my notebook. Some of it was text, some of it was drawing, some of it was comics, and it was just like, that was kind of always what I wanted to make, because I just knew that I wasn't like fast enough to do Marvel. I wasn't like, I didn't have poses down good enough. My characters are kind of flat, but it's like, I knew that it was like my style, and I would get better. So I just was like, I just got to get it out there to people, and hopefully they'll buy into me as well.
Yeah. Well, the buying into you thing seems very much like the Cosmic Lion Productions value system of creators that you kind of cobbled together, right? Like, you have a bunch of people that are in different places in their career, different places. I mean, like, Morgan Herron didn't have a book before, before you, and then you just like were like, this is cool, let's publish this. That's cobbled together from a conversation I had with him a year ago. But that seems to be like your methodology of picking out people. What drives your interest in the books that you are putting out through Cosmic Lion Productions?
Yes, you're very right. It is very much like that. It's like when I get a submission, and I've been getting lots and lots of submissions. Like last year, I had to just be like, "We're closed for the year." It's like too much, and then with the diamond thing now too, I'm kind of throttling back a little bit. But when I get and we can talk about that later if you'd like.
Yeah.
It is like it's this initial thing. It's a first impression. It's just like meeting someone or seeing a movie or like you hear a song and like you can tell by that first 5 seconds, like, do I hate this song? That first guitar note, the first sound of like a whiny vocal that you're like, I can't listen to that or something like that, So it's immediately like that. So that's the first kind of thing that I look for and see, because a lot of these submissions I don't see or hear or can verbally see the person. So, for Morgan, we did meet at Heroes Con and he showed me his work and it reminded me of Mahfood, and he was this young kid who was full of, interest and energy and just really wanted to be published and loved Kevin Catalan, who I was there with, author of Space Knights. And, he was just, he was, for lack of a better term, very cute, like shy and
yeah.
And I was just like, look at this guy, but then he proved himself to me with his work ethic and his art and his creativity and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So, shout out Morgan. Anyway, so, but then all these other people too, like, part of it is our slogan, comics of every kind for every mind. I like to find also creators that do everything. I don't know if you agree with this, guys, but someone told me like, an artist is someone who draws, a writer, someone who writes, but like a cartoonist, they write and draw and ink and letter and color and everything. So if that is true, then, I try to find these cartoonists who can do everything, who are self-contained, partly because I find that expression of your art the most pure. It's just straight from your head right to the page, and it's everything the way you want it to be. The look, the feel, the touch, the feel of cotton. It's the fabric of our lives. You know what I mean? And for other people, because I found when I have a writer and I have an artist and I have this and that and I have a full team, it's just like too many cooks. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I try to find these auteurs, and then I get taken, and then I'm just like, this is just like where it's at. And I guess that is that.
You seem to be the only publisher doing that, even on the smaller indie side, where it's just like the people that you are looking for, or maybe that are coming to you, that are now like, maybe you were looking for it at the beginning, but are now like seeking you out as some kind of mecca of comic book uniqueness, right? Is like people are going to you, people are finding you to submit their work, and then you, I guess, have to have the daunting job of telling people yes or no, right? To be the gatekeeper in a certain way, not in a bad way, like you're not telling people don't do stuff, but like having to have that. You're just an extreme tastemaker. Every book you guys put out is a hit, right? Like you have bangers.
We do. Yeah, we try.
Yeah.
I try to like, number one, hit like just the every genre possible, so that when you come to the booth, I have something for you, and I'll say like, what kind of comics do you love? Like, what do you love to read? This. Okay. And then I'll be like, okay, you got to go here. We've got, I've got 25 pitches memorized, so then I'm like, oh, we can go right here to Space Knights. And it's Kevin Anthony Catalan's neon space action adventure with actual Space Knights. Check out the colors. Look at this. Blah, blah, blah. So like, and if they don't know what genre they're at or what they really want to read, I'm just like, well, I've got 25 pitches memorized. You want to test me on some? And then they'll pick one up and be like, what's this? And I'll be like, boom, that's this.
I've watched you do it at Heroes Con last year. I spent a good amount of time just like facing y'all because we were right next to each other last year at Heroes Con, and I got to like see how you sell stuff, and I was like, oh man, he's got it figured out. Like it's super approachable. it's super easy. Like, you go to conventions, and the worst people at conventions are guys who are like actively trying to sell you stuff, like calling you in from across the hall. They're like, "Hey, come look at my stuff," and you're like,
Yeah.
It's really disrupting the vibe of the show. But you're so chill that it makes it like you're just like, "Oh yeah, I've got a bunch of books." Like, so you will leave this table with something
that you will love. And it's like, I hate. There's like a couple things that I don't like about comic people, and I don't mean about comic people, but I guess I mean like about the pitch. And it's just come from going to cons and seeing people do stuff. It's like I try to stay standing the whole time.
Yeah.
Which at my age, you're just getting up there. It's like getting harder, but I do stuff like I bring one of those kitchen memory foam mats now to stand on, and I do different things, but I try to stand up all the time, and I don't love the this either. Here, check out my book.
Yeah,
Holding the book out there and like forcing them to touch it and come in, like that's got its place. But I just do like a little wave, like, "Hi, how's it going? What's up?"
Yeah.
Hey, like, just kind of, they'll be like, "Hey," and they're like, "How you doing?" Good. And then they start walking to you, and I'm like, "Got tons of books here, dude." Like just what you said, and so they come in, and now I've got this like vertical rack.
Yeah.
That Ghostman, Space Knights, and what's the new one that's really well? There's like 3 books now that just like are tractor beams to people.
Yeah.
And so I kind of put those in the middle, and then people are like, and they just immediately pick up Space Knights or Ghostman like every time. And so then I talk, and usually those 2 sell like immediately.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you got the books, and you let them do the work for you, and like you have them standing up, and you have something to look at. And sometimes, but then again, like if you're, I just worked this con this weekend, and it's like Howard Chaykin and Don Simpson were next to me, and those guys just sit there and they do their thing, and people come up to them and they want to look through their stuff. They look through them. They want to be told they're a piece of shit by Howard Chaykin, and they want to be like, experience these guys. I'm not necessarily there yet. So I want to engage people, and I want them to have fun, and, like check it out, guys. This is the thing. I'm a tastemaker. Okay. I make tastes. No, I don't know. No, another thing I wanted to circle back around to, you said about like the pitch and stuff and saying no to people, which has been a super tough thing and something I've really tried to like learn about. Because I'm like nice. I'm a nice guy, and I don't like letting people down. And it was really a hard thing at first. And I think I did take a few books that I kind of changed my mind about, and I went back on, and I was waffling on like a contract, and I decided to like trust my instinct. And I just kind of reached out to the guy after like a lot of trepidation to be like, I don't think this is right for Cosmic Lion. And, but both people were upset, but actually the dude was a lot cooler than I thought. And he's still messaging me, and we still talk, which is great, because I was like, okay, I just burned this bridge, which I never want to do. But another thing I've been telling a lot of people is they send me their issue 1, and it's the first comic they did, and it's the first thing they ever did. And I'm like, you don't want me now, and you don't need me now. Like, this is your first book. This is your first comic like out there. You need to like, maybe I said this before, but you need to like go out there and self-publish and take it to cons and have that experience of like, boots on the ground, like your first book, like getting out there and scrapping for it, because it's super important. And if you only have one, most publishers do, they want a couple issues, or they want something to see that I can, make a few months off this. So if you only have the one, you got to get out there and hustle it and show people that you're here to do it. And maybe go to that first con and sell one book and be like, oh man, it sucks. And it's like, that was my bagels alarm. Ooh. But you like get out there and like fight and like, and work for it. And then be like, I only sold one book at this con. Fuck this. I'm not doing this. This ain't for me. I'm just going to do my little drawings and keep it for my wife and kid or whatever. Yeah. Or are you going to be like, and like work harder and change your cover and add some stuff in the back and get back out there and try it again and have a mini comic that's like about something you like, Ninja Turtles, so that you can bring people in and like, so that's what I've been telling people. It's like, you don't want me on your first comic. You don't need a publisher yet. Like, there's a lot of resources to get out there and self-publish.
I recently started stapling and trimming my own books. That was my like, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and finally it just came back around. I was like, this is a lot easier and a lot more fun, and it brings me back to like, having to buy a bone tool, like a bone, so you can bone down on your comics, all of that stuff. So it brings you back to that time when you are hustling and grinding, and I feel like I'm doing something at a high enough professional level, but it's also at the same time like, it's so much easier. I can just make books as I need them. I don't need to have like back stock that's going around. But that was not something when I started. That wasn't something that it was something that I figured out I had to be able to do, because that's just, stapling books and doing that, making mini comics is definitely a thing. But now I'm selling more books than I've ever sold, and it's using the techniques that I learned 10 years ago to make a book. It's really necessary to have that foundational thing before publishers, because I talk to a lot of guys and they just don't know how to do that, and because they've never had to know, and it gives you a little bit of scrappiness.
It does, and it's like, it's just like the foundations or the fundamentals of like comic making. Like, you're not going to be out there making an NBA team without, the Jordan swing or the dribble or, these little tricks in your thing, and sports metaphor. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I mean,
we got to take this conversation back a little bit, because we kind of skipped over some important things.
Okay, here we go.
Like, when did you decide, and why did you decide to become a publisher?
Well, it was out of COVID, and it was after Image Grand Design, and Wizards, I guess. I guess Wizard 2 came out after Image Grand Design. But after working with all those people, meeting all these amazing people during COVID and quarantine, and the late night Zoom crew and all the people in the Cartoonist Kayfabe ringside seats, like, once I saw that all those people were making amazing comics, needed a publisher, needed like sort of a centralized voice, like, and if we can harness, by your powers combined, we can do something amazing. It was exactly that. And without all those amazing people, and it's crazy, without, Cartoonist Kayfabe, without quarantine, without this like perfect storm of shit, I might not be doing it, and I might not, we might not be here today. You guys might be, but maybe I'm not, like, or I'm just doing my thing, or I'm just making Monkey Line in my weird books, but without this like perfect storm of events, it wouldn't have happened. And for me to meet all those guys and to be like, and girls, and want to be like, oh my God, this is like, these are some geniuses. These are amazing people with books. Like, let's just do it. And so that's, I started there, and I think I kind of can't remember what the first book was now. I think it was Arcane, which Ben Granoff brought to me. And then, I saw Space Knights on a mailbag episode of Cartoonist Kayfabe, and I was like, this book is insane, and I ordered it, and it's so good. And then I connected with Kev, and I was just like, I think the ball just started rolling, and I got these ideas. I was like, oh my God. And because I already had Cosmic Lion Productions going, because I had my podcast. I've had my podcast, Cosmic Lion Radio, for like 12 or 13 years now. And, so I was doing stuff under that, and Cosmic Lion Productions did Monkey Lion, and, I was producing shows at Nectar's in Burlington again. And so then it was always kind of that. And then, I don't know, I think it was like, once I saw Space Knights and then started working with these other guys, I was like, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I just kind of started it. I made an LLC and, revamped the website, and just boom. And then I just wanted to hit up all the people from Image Grand Design. And that was the initial thing. Oh, and Rocco, God, I always kind of forget how integral Ghost Agents was in that whole process, because that was the first thing we went into after that. God, I'm an idiot. Sorry, Rocco. So Rocco, he was writing all that. And then we got all the Image Grand Design people, because we were like, after the trials and tribulations of we're using other people's characters. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Are we going to get sued? Or is this book going to get to go out digital, print, all this stuff? It was a whole thing. I was just like, I don't want to do fan stuff anymore. Like, I just want to do independent, like create our own shit that we can do whatever we want with. And so then we moved right into Ghost Agents, and all the people from Image Grand Design kind of helped out with that. And so then that grew. And then people from Ghost Agents, like John Burkett, Ben Perkins, just everybody, Barry Tan.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of all of this stuff, have followed the path of so many guys of like the 70s and 80s, where you start in fan comics and then grow to something that's bigger and more independent. I owe a lot to you for my career personally, because you did in Wizards #1, you did this whole like really nice write-up for me, and you gave me like several pages in it. Yeah. So, and
that's when we first chatted, because I wanted to have a conversation with every single person in the book too. And that's probably, and that kind of started a friendship with everyone. I'm trying to flip through and find it. I don't remember it as well as I used to.
You printed it so big. You were like, "Hey, Jamie, give me a picture of yourself." It's like the entire page. It was like,
oh, there it is. Yeah, and I put the very and you followed right past Bernie Moreau, Mr. Jones, and me, and we have the St. Pete Pier, the old pier.
Yep.
I really went in heavy on the puns in the first issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I was so excited. I was really excited about this. We had a great conversation and interview for this.
Yeah, it changed my direction, I think, and a lot of like just where I was going and what I was trying to do, and finding a community that was gonna like help and support and do all that stuff. And that's kind of you've been the backbone of this independent community for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, which is wild. You blink and it becomes like half a decade. Yeah,
it did. And I guess, like I'm here kind of at the office packing orders and writing emails and stuff. And I don't see as much, like, I don't know. I didn't feel like that backbone, I guess. And, until people reach out to me and stuff. And I don't know, it feels good. Try to be humble, like Kendrick tells me. And
yeah, it was really funny, because that was right when Jamie and I were meeting up to like write Tales of Monkeys Fighting Robots and everything like that. And I was on his front porch, and he just throws this big book on my lap. He's like, "Hey, you guys check this out." And I was like, "What the hell is going on with this book?" The first time I saw Wizards, like, "Oh, I got to write up and everything like that." And I looked through and I was like, "I don't know, half of these people. What's going on?" Like, and then it's like I slowly got like, I think Manny then was like, "Hey, you got to check out this group on Facebook and stuff like that." And there was like a few signals from 3 different people. And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I probably should like check this scene out and stuff." And it's crazy how like a fan page has grown, like because you're a publisher now, and like I run a show. Like it's like, if you think about the different fingers of all the people that have gone in different directions and done things based on that Facebook group. It's kind of bonkers if you think about it.
It's bonkers. And I think it goes to say and goes to show kind of like a little bit about what made that show, Cartoonist Kayfabe, so special, is that it was so particular, and like the like kind of creator and person Ed and Jim were so like they were so the heart of comics, that the people that they brought around them, like it was such a singular comics fandom. And so those first couple years, the group and everyone around it, and the creation and the books and the fan ideas they had, and them throwing out Image Grand Design and us being like, let's do it. And the rapt engagement that COVID brought, it was just like, again, another perfect storm of like perfectness, perfect storm of perfectness. It was just amazing. Like, and, I've had a few experiences with Facebook groups, and I was in a Turtles one, and I was in one for the band Ween, where I both experienced like, creativity, but in a much different way. Like I wanted to do a zine in the Turtles group. We did 2 there. I saw these amazing artists in this Ween group, and we did 6 issues of the Ween zine. And then as soon as their channel launched, I was like, I know that there's going to be amazing people in this group. And I know that we just need to make our own Wizard magazine. That was my immediate thought when I saw they were covering Wizard. And so, that's when I messaged Ed and Jim and was like, I got to start this group. And they were like, oh, Sasha started it yesterday. Get a hold of her. And I was like, all right. So then, I did that. And then, we ushered it in to be whatever it was. And this amazing thing that it became. And then, I was quickly like, let's get going on a Wizard. And I broke it down page by page, and everyone was just like, and just like it went crazy from there.
Yeah, I forget that like you started that group, or that you were like
kind of started it, but like
day 2 of starting the group.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I think that like even if I didn't start it, I probably would have come in and been like pushing about stuff, because I knew immediately that these two guys, I guess, I didn't know Jim as well. I knew Ed, and I knew that he was like this just like singular, like also like meticulous comic creator. And so I was like I almost had him on Cosmic Lion Radio a few times, and kind of he always canceled at the last minute. But
did you know him from like meeting at conventions, or how did you?
I met him at some conventions and just in emails and stuff. And I knew that he was friend of Mahfoud's, who I was like kind of friends with, and just had been writing. I had been writing Mahfoud since like 2002 or something like that. And so we kind of had like a male relationship. By male, I mean MAIL. But and Mahfoud I had worked at conventions for and volunteered and stuff like that. So that's how I got turned on to Ed through Jim doing a Bambaataa pinup and hip hop grand design. And then I met Ed at San Diego, I think, and I had like a Kamiko shirt on, and he said, "Hey, cool shirt. You got good taste in comics." And I was like, I was just like, "Oh my god, that's the best." The best comment you can get is that like somebody notices what your super nerdy T-shirt is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was the first comic book convention you went to?
I didn't get to go to any as a kid, because while there was tons of cons in Maryland, SPX and all that stuff was right there, but I was 2 hours away and I didn't really see any. So I went to like baseball card things. But I think the very first one I went to, I was living in New York City in 2003, and I went to Big Apple Con that was across the street from MSG. And I remember it so well. I remember these two interactions. One, I met Bill Sienkiewicz. He was the first person I wanted to meet, because for a very long time, my favorite comic, which pushed it along. I'm reading a Tribe Called Quest book. It's really good. Anyway, it was the Jimi Hendrix book that Bill Sienkiewicz did. I got that for my bar mitzvah from my aunt, and it was like my favorite thing. The CD inside of it is like so good, acoustic Jimmy, and so that was like my talisman of like, okay, comics are like this childhood superhero thing, but can also be like the thing I'm into now, which is like psychedelic music and stuff. So, oh my god. So then I got to meet Bill Sienkiewicz. He drew a big fucking Jimmy thing in there. Jimmy thinks that's my way. Remember Dave Matthews? Anyway, so he drew Jimmy in there, and I talked to him, and it was like so sick. It was like a free sketch. We talked, gave me all this stuff. It was amazing. And then I went and saw Michael Jai White, aka Spawn, and I asked to get his signature, and he was like $20, and I was like $20. Like I wasn't like subtle about it. I was like, $20, no way, and like kind of like skittered away. And then later I was like flipping through a back issue bin, and he was right next to me, and he kind of scowled at me, and I thought he remembered it. And then I had lunch with Peter Mayhew. I sat down at a table, and Peter Mayhew sat down, and I hung out and chatted with him. So my first con, Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca, for your fans who might not know.
Yeah. I mean, we've entered Star Trek and Star Wars. I mean, like,
oh man, it's so good. Anyway, y'all see Skeleton Crew? I loved it. It was really good.
Jamie doesn't like Star Wars
at all, huh?
This is okay.
No. Get the soapbox out. Just step on it. Just right now.
Gross. I don't like a lot of things. That's
okay. A man of taste.
I love Star Trek.
There you go. Yes, obviously, clearly a smart man of taste.
Yeah. See.
So okay, my question. So this was something I've always talked about. There's the Walking Dead timeline, and then there's the Star Trek timeline. Like us as society should be like heading towards the Star Trek timeline, but we always keep taking the Walking Dead path, which is upsetting because I really want Star Trek world. Yeah. Why do you love Star Trek?
Whoa. I think it has a lot to do with like how much my dad loved Star Trek and my early memories. Like one of my earliest memories is watching the premiere of Next Gen, like at my parents' friend's house. And it was an event and it was a thing. And it was probably my first interaction with like fandom of any type. My dad was like, I love this. And his friends were like, we love this. And so we would watch it. And then it became a thing where we would like go to their house for dinner on whatever night it was on Paramount 20, WDCA TV, Paramount 20. And we would go over there and we'd have dinner and we'd watch it. And then we'd hang out with the kids and trade cards and play Shaq Fu on Genesis or something like that. And then so it was probably the first time. And then it just became a thing where, every week we watch it, we tape it on VHS and I watch the VHS at home and then I get the toys and it just became a bigger and bigger thing to where I just loved it and, watched every episode over and over and knew everything and, was waiting there with bated breath all summer during the Battle of Wolf 359 when Locutus shows his face. Resistance is futile. Your life as it has been is over. And it was all summer. So it just got its paws. It's got its claws into me really early on, and I just always loved it. And then I became like a nerd of that. And I remember we went to see Generations in the theater, and I was like destroying this old guy at trivia and stuff like that. And he was like, you don't know that. What's this episode? And I was like, oh, that's Relics with Scotty. The Dyson's for you, idiot. And he's like, so it just became like an identity, like love kind of thing.
So when you're picking books to publish through Cosmic Lion,
yes,
are you looking at like a base like interest of this will build fans? Like you're coming from such a fandom world and you go like, yeah, people will dig this, people will be fans of this.
I think so. Again, I think it is partly like I'm buying into this person. Like, do I think that they can sell? Do I think that they're interesting enough to when they go out and do podcasts, people will be like, oh my God, like, he spoke to me, and so I want to get his book, and or he or she. Ro, we love you. We have one lady trying to be more, but I think I also want. I'm not necessarily thinking that. Like I'm thinking that like maybe we can build the community. Maybe we can build this creator. Like I see like a kernel in there. Like with Morgan. Like I think like him, like seeing him grow and create and do bigger things and do this Kickstarter now that was successful and write a story for someone else. And I think I'm buying into like what I think is a growing creativity that these people can like get out there. I don't know if I'm necessarily trying to be like, that is like very much like Superman and that people will buy. I think I'm more buying into like what I think is cool and I think other people will.
Yeah. I guess that wasn't what I was trying to suggest is you're like attacking people's fandom or nostalgia because that's not what it is.
Give me an X-Men analog, give me the Batman analog, give me Star Trek analog. Yeah.
You've got a stable of guys that are all making stuff that seems like somebody else will like. And maybe that's just because we like the person. And then, I say often that the book that I make should be irrelevant. People should just buy it because they like me. And that's becoming more and more true as I grow and make stuff. My interests become their interests. building upon that. And I think that's something with most of your books. And so I'm just, yeah, it's great. I don't have a question anymore, I don't think.
It's interesting though, because I wonder like if you guys find the same thing, but like I find that the hardest people to sell to are like my friends and family. Like they bought into like my first book,
yeah,
issue 1, 15 years ago, but they don't buy any of the stuff I do. They don't listen to my podcasts. They don't do any of that. And I don't know if it's like they get enough of me already and they're just like, oh boy, but like those people are the hardest people to sell to. Not like my mom and dad or anything, but like my homies, they just don't, and maybe they don't read comics, so it's not on their radars or whatever, but like you would think like your homies would want to support you, but it's like I can't sell to them for anything. And I just kind of like stopped even trying now. And I sell to like comic people, and I got new homies that read comics, and it's like that's who you buy to. But it's interesting to see what like breaks through. And every now and then I do get a message, or I do hear someone be like, oh, I got this, or that spoke to you. So it's interesting to see too what like breaks these different the walls of like fandom, or like I don't read comics, but I like Star Wars, but I was on this Reddit and someone had Space Knights, and so I got it, or something like that. So it's kind of interesting the lives these books then have out in the world.
How do you balance being a creator and a publisher? Because for you to be successful, the creator in you is going to need to kind of take a step back.
Yes. Your guys' interview dynamic is amazing. I love it. It's really hard, Matt. I tell you, man, there was a real stretch of time where I was like not creating at all, or I was just like drawing on envelopes, while I'm watching TV, or, then I like have consciously been making an effort to like get back to the drawing board. And we were doing the Ringside Thology for Ringside seats for a long time, which was a monthly thing where everyone get together and draw for 3 hours, which was like truly the only time that I was making pages. And that's like part of this comic because it's the only output I had when I felt like I needed to have something of myself on the table, and so now at this point I'm like making time to, my ladies at school, and so I'm at the office and I have to be like, don't drink that whole 6-pack, like draw, so the balance is tough for me, and I've really been trying to get back to it. And one thing that I started doing is like Procreate. I'm sure a lot of people use Procreate, and one thing that really gets my mind going and is teaching me is like downloading like Mobius pencils or Jack Kirby pencils and tracing, inking it or coloring it and trying to get your brain moving like that. Or I'll get commissions and that are black and white, and I'll scan them in and try to color them. And so that has kind of got my brain back into work. And then it's like, okay, now I can try to do something of mine again. And also with Monkey Line, it was supposed to be 3 issues, and I never did the 3rd issue because I got this advice. I got this like feedback from a creator that I loved that was like incredibly negative and like destroyed me for a little while, destroyed my creative process for a while, where I was like, well, my characters are flat and it's not good to read, so I'm done. And maybe that's part of why I was like, let's help other people for now. And so after that happened, then I couldn't get back to it because I was like, it's either you do the next issue of Monkey Line or nothing else. And I was like, fuck, man. So like I have it written, I have it storyboarded, I just haven't done it yet. And so then that was keeping me from doing anything else because I was like, you can't do anything else until you do this. And now I've kind of like let go, and the Cosmic Line guys have heard the story, so they're like, let us help you finish it. We'll all do a page, we'll all do this, and it'll be like X-Men 348 through 49 when a bunch of different people before Joe Mad comes back for the trial of Gambit. And I'm like, I don't want to do that because I didn't like, I don't like filling issues like that. I want to do it, and so I was fighting him on that. But now I'm kind of like you need to do something else or you'll never do Monkey Line. So now I'm like working on this other thing, and I have this idea about this intergalactic comedy writer, and it's kind of like a combination of like these SNL books I like to read and The Silver Surfer. So it's like this comedy writer based on this dude Tom Davis, who I love from SNL. He was like a big deadhead, and this book is like just his life with like SNL and Grateful Dead and like where they intersect, and you know, him taking Chris Farley to see the Dead, and him like freebasing with Jerry while they're writing the Sirens of Titan script, and it's just all these like insane stories. And so like now my idea is like this comedy writer who this intergalactic who becomes like the jester of the cosmos through like the power cosmic, and he travels the galaxy, you know, making jokes and shit. So we'll see what happens with that. And I'm trying to do it for this thing called Lion Cosmique that's in the works, which is like the Cosmic Lion kind of cheval noir, heavy metal, Deadline magazine type of thing. Right. So it's going to have some interviews and comics, and Matt Howarth, who is a big creator we're working with right now, who was like in heavy metal, like next to Drew Lay and Mobius and Bilal and stuff. And he did a story for us, which is actually like part 2 of a 3-part story. And so we're publishing the full thing, or part 1, I guess. And then to get the rest, you know, you're going to have to go read our other comic. But so that's like this thing that we're working on, which is going to be like an anthology horror or sci-fi. So
that's awesome.
Wow. And then you brought up something really important with like a creator giving you advice. Like it's not easy to critique somebody like not harshly, but like realistically, but then also to like keep them. You don't want to crush them,
right?
But but you got to be kind of brutally honest sometimes.
You really do, and
get to the next level. And like also you got to like, I don't know. It's if you ask your advice, you get what you get. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a certain responsibility, because we're kind of caretakers to be like, hey, you need to work on this. Yeah. But if you work on it, you can get to the next level, and I'm sure like there are some people that are like going to be like, oh, this is never going to get to the next level. But I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I do know that like we have like a caretaker responsibility.
Yeah. And like probably what hit me so hard about that advice from that guy is when I took a step back and looked, he was right. He was right. I needed to practice more. I needed to draw more. I needed to work on my figures and all this stuff, like he was right. But I took it so to heart. But then I don't know, like always throughout my life, like there's these 2 moments of criticism too that shaped me too. Like I thought I did this amazing piece of this dude skiing in art class, and I had this art teacher, Miss Thompson. So cool. She was the coolest art teacher. She taught me when I was a kid, and then she would sub, and she would be all throughout school. So she basically taught me my whole life. And I showed her this drawing of this skier that I thought was so good, and she was just like, all your drawings look the same, and that's it. And I was just like, oh my God. But then I went and looked at it, and I was kind of like, they do. And my dad told me one time too, because I used to draw this same figure, like quarter view with like a D shape, a capital D mouth, and the same thing. And he's like, all your mouths look exactly the same. And I'm like, oh, like, and you know what? They did. And so like I went out and practiced like 1,000 mouths and figured all these different ways. And like sometimes like I don't learn how to drive a car unless I crash, or I don't learn how to use a crow quill until I snap the tip, or I don't use how to like I only learn through trial and error, and mostly error, so like those kind of things, I guess they helped me and they made me better. But I do think like, and when I'm working with people and when I'm talking with people, I try to be as cordial about it, but also be like, this is what someone told me, or this is, you got to think about what you like, but then you also got to think, we do have a responsibility to find the best way to tell someone this, because you could either make them a better artist or make them quit forever. You never know, or make them quit for 5 years, or make them be like, throw out 10 pages they did or something like that. And that's the last thing you want,
A lot of kids come to me and go, hey, here's my comics pages, and I will look through their comics and I'll go, okay, you got to fix this and this, but then I'll see their sketchbook and it's a wildly different style, and it's like, and it's so much better and it's so much more energetic and all these things. And oftentimes I just go, why are you trying to do this other thing when this is just leaps and bounds better, right?
Because they think they have to draw like Marvel DC house style. And hey, that's another thing like about Cosmic Lion. I say no house style. Like that's not what I want. Like I want you to draw exactly what's in your brain. I don't want you to like. There's no CLP house style. It's just the farthest, most creative, wild, imaginative things that you can do is like what we want. You know? Yeah, I agree with that, man. And do you think that that's what that person did in that? Like they were like trying to draw like a house style, whereas in their notebooks they were like, "This is the way I draw."
Oftentimes, yeah, it's like they're trying to sell themselves, and I know I think I noticed that a lot because I did that when I was younger, and it took me a while to kind of figure out stylistically who I even liked. Right, like I didn't come to Eisner until I was 24 or 25, so it's like. Now that became my staple, and that became like, this is where I'm going. And then I spent a lot of time just doing Eisner things, and that, you know, has grown into what I do now. But I think there's this growth progression that oftentimes isn't what's seen to like, it's not what they're presenting to the public because they're trying to, you know, break in, and breaking in is often the hardest. Not the hardest thing to do, but also just like the hardest hurdle to jump over in your mind is like, I need to break in. But going back to you just being like, hey, you got to self-publish this thing and, you know, grind away.
Yeah, that's like, it's like a barrier of entry that stops your creative flow. You're like, you do like, you know, maybe you do a portfolio review and the Marvel DC person says like, oh, this isn't our style. And then you're like, oh my God. I just spent all this time doing this. But if you had spent all that time harnessing, you know, your absolute inner vision and then made that book and took it out there and got it to the people. And I think that's maybe like just my like the indie thing that I've always loved, the tune on, turn in, drop out, make your own, be here now, you know, kind of thing, you know, just do it and put it out into the world, and it, you know, you'll find your people, you'll find the people that dig it. And like, if it's one person at your first show, then it's one person. But like for me, I did have this one Monkey Lion fan who came back to me every year at San Diego when I was working for this other guy, Greg Horn. And he came back every year with more people, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. And I always had a backpack full of my book. And so, you know, that, and then the final year I saw him, he was in the military. And he came back with like 5 or 6, like 10 people. And he's like, we all read this book. We all read it in the barracks. We like do this. Yeah. We are like all, you know, and I was just like, I can't even believe it. I'm getting cold chills even talking about it right now. But I was just like, I was so excited that these guys sat around and like used my jokes. And there's a part where the guy kills this guy and like turns his skull into a bong. And like, they thought it was like the funniest thing ever. Like, they're like, the skull bong, we love it. I'm like, skull bong. And I'm like, it's crazy. Like to think of it, to just, and I think that's like what I did it for, you know, and even just like the thought that like Monkey Lion 1 is like in a long box at a shop or in a dollar bin somewhere, or is in somebody's closet. It's amongst these things. It's like, you know, that comic has done what I wanted it to do, you know, and I'll continue to do whatever.
It's time for the end. Do you know what's coming, Eli?
Yes, you have some questions. I love this.
Rapid fire ending questions.
Yes. I like Ben Mankiewicz's podcast and he does it.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Question number 1. What are you bringing to IC3 this year?
Just like a ton of comics. And I just got an exclusive comic from Turkey, a science fiction tale from the Weird Myths dudes. And so I now have a exclusive with logo on cover and everything.
Ooh, nice. That's very fun.
Sons of Pequod. Shout out Caesar.
This is going to be a weird question, but you are a cartoonist and you are a creator. What is the weird art tool that you grab for all the time?
Yes, this was the question I was looking forward to. I have a lot of the weird ones. You know, now it's not super weird, but like Rick Lopez first, this is the one. It's these like brush pens. You know what? No, change my answer. That's not weird. I think what I think I want to do, because I was back and forth about this, but I think it's these like these. I called them grandma pens at first, but now I feel like they're Jim Rugg pens. But they're like the colored pens with all the different colors on the top.
Yeah.
I find myself loving this, and recently Rick Lopez showed me it's a pencil. It's a colored pencil that's like that, and it's got like 8 colors on it.
Ooh.
And so I find myself loving these kind of like multicolored things that allow me to take like a basic envelope drawing and make it jump. Or, you know, I always try to draw on like stuff I send out or like orders for people and stuff. And so that pencil or pen lets me take that drawing of myself and pump it up.
Question number 3. Are you a feeling or a schedule creator?
Feeling. The only reason I have to have a schedule, yes, but it's like a trial. And it's not like I don't exude schedule. I exude feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your proudest moment as a comic book creator?
Boy, the voltage. That's what the Jewish electric provider is. Giga voltage. That's one of my little jokes here. As I filibust until I think about it. I think like what I really wanted to do as a publisher is help people see like their creative visions in the world. So I think my proudest moment keeps changing every time I do a con with more and more creators. So like last year at IC3 or last year at Heroes felt so good because I had all these tables and all these creators that are all flying the Cosmic Line flag and succeeding and hitting homers and thinking dunks and rolling strikes out here. And so my proudest moment is just like, you know, creating this creative family and then seeing all those people hit homers.
Nice. Who is your biggest influence?
I think it's got to be Mahfood, honestly, on a few different levels, just like original art creation level, in that I would sit and draw his art all the time and learn mark making, I guess. And because I saw his book and it's maybe know that you can make comics, and then I saw Gen X Underground and saw that comics can be more than superhero stories. Like there was a story in there where we're playing Atari, and that like blew my mind. So like in all these levels and throughout my career, he's kind of been just like an ear or a creative bounce board. And now I'd like to think we're friends, and he's helping me out, and we see each other at cons, and you know, we saw Zappa play Zappa one time together, which was really fun. And you know, so we've had our times, and I think just as a creative person and a friend, he's probably been my biggest influence.
Nice. Who was your favorite Disney princess?
Whoa, I don't remember this one. It's Jasmine. Easy. Because I loved Aladdin, and I thought she was the most beautiful, I guess. And she was like really powerful. She was like self-contained, and she didn't need Aladdin. Aladdin needed her. She was like out here like with a tiger as a friend and like just being awesome. Though she was a Nepo baby, I guess, when you get down to it. But nah, it's just always Jasmine.
Nice. And final question, what stories interest you?
Oh. For me, I love stories that combine like my various loves. Like to me, I want to create these like music sci-fi comics, and I love to read like comics about music and you know, action adventure and stuff that kind of combines all my favorite things. So like these, like for me, like the ultimate of that was creating like this warp drive synthesizer that drove the ship of Monkey Line. You know, it's like what's his name? Keith Emerson's Monster Moog from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, that giant keyboard with the things. That's like the warp drive, the rhythm drive. So like, you know, things like that combine everything that I love into one. My favorite kinds of story.
Nice.
Awesome, Eli. This was amazing, and I'm starting to get this now where I want to like have like a second hour conversation now with all the people we've been talking to. Now that we're getting better at this and everything, and there's so much left on the table that I still want to talk about. But thank you so much for your time.
Hell yeah, guys! I'm really enjoyed it. So much love, guys. Thank you so much.